So Dave Zirin, here's a quote from someone you know and respect. I think college has changed quite a bit too. Just society has changed. I think how hard I pushed. I believe there's greatness in everybody. It's the coach's job to find that greatness. However you do that, positive encouragement, pushing them to be greater, making them work harder, identifying flaws and trying to fix them. I think everything is so fragile right now. And that includes coaching staffs. When I got into coaching, coaches weren't making this kind of money and they didn't have agents. Everything is so fragile. Where it used to be team.
Wow. Was that from the comments section of a Joe Rogan YouTube video?
That was from Urban Meyer to the NFL Network. Oh. And so to hear Urban Meyer tell it, the main problem is that it's not that he had no clue how to run an NFL team. It's that everyone and everything is so fragile. And now assistant coaches make money and now they have agents. And that's why his team went 2-11 under his watch, and why every single person who ever spoke about him in public never had anything good to say about him. Dave Zirin, so my question to you is, to what extent is Urban Meyer full of crap when he blames a changing society for the fact that he fell on his face in his first and probably only tenure as an NFL coach?
Well, it's fragile. It's Urban Meyer's marriage. I mean, dude needs to keep his hands to himself and worry about that first, and then he can.
I'm surprised you went. I'm surprised that's the first place you took it. But go ahead,
that's the first place I took it. Was the
all the places you could have taken it. Wow,
on the whole place to take it. Second thing, let's go big picture. We're living in an incredible golden age for the aggrieved white man over the age of 50 years old. They feel like this is their time to shine and Joe Rogan is their hero. You hear it in the words of Aaron Rodgers talking about the woke mob, now Urban Meyer talking about fragility. The only real fragility on display is the white fragility of Urban Meyer, who can't deal with the fact that he just got fired after drafting the number one quarterback prospect of his generation. Do you know how incredibly rare that is? He could have gone 0-17 and they would have said, give Urban Meyer more time because we have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is like a get out of getting fired free card. And yet Urban Meyer couldn't hack it. That makes him one of the worst coaching hires in the history of the National Football League. Hugh Jackson lasted 2 seasons. Rich Kotite lasted 2 seasons. This is some Lou Holtz New York Jets era type of coaching that we're seeing right now that we saw, thank goodness, from Urban Meyer. And I got to tell you, if I took his leadership class at Ohio State last decade, which he used to teach, a class of leadership, I would be contacting the school and asking for a tuition reimbursement. I mean, the person has no leadership qualities whatsoever. He managed to turn his entire coaching staff and his entire team against him in very short order. He turned Marvin Jones, who's the veteran leader of that club, against him. And Marvin Jones is one of the chillest people you'd ever want to meet in your life. I mean, inspiring Marvin Jones to say, I don't want you here anymore, I mean, is next level in terms of your ability to create waves of alienation among the people around you. So I said early on when he was hired, I remember on the show, I called him Urban Blight, and I said that I wished I could buy stock in this failing. Unfortunately, that stock was not available, but I would have sold my house and put all the money on this because Urban Meyer is a failure walking. But as you said, there will be a cushion waiting for him at the collegiate football level, because I liken Urban Meyer to Fredo from The Godfather. And him going to the NFL was sending him to Las Vegas. He failed miserably in Las Vegas. And so what the college football world is going to do is the equivalent of shooting Mo Green in the eye, bringing him back into the fold and giving him some $10 million a year job, because he's a made guy at the college level. But at the, not just the NFL level, but at the leadership level, at the societal level, at the aggrieved white man level, at the fragility level, I mean, everything you could possibly imagine, Urban Meyer put that now on his resume. And if Urban Meyer really wants to deal with the issue of fragility in society and people who don't take responsibility for themselves, he needs to start by looking dead square in the mirror.
Meghan McPeak, how predictable was this?
I feel like Dave just laid everything out that we needed. Like, what else is that? I mean, in all honesty, I wish I could fail up like Urban Meyer. Like, really, because we know he's going to get a coaching job somewhere in college football. Today's point, like, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of when, but where, literally. I think had this happened a couple weeks ago, it's very possible that we would not have seen Notre Dame make the move that they made. I'm just going to say that.
True.
I'll put it out there.
That is true. At least not without having offered Urban the job first for him to turn down. Yes.
Exactly. And number two, I feel like as someone who does not know a lick about football, I, with the help of my NFL insiders, who are actually, pretty decent, Ryan Clark, Marcus Spears, Dorn Orlovsky, I would have gotten to those three. I feel like I could have actually gotten 3 wins, maybe even 4 out of 100%. Trevor Lawrence.
100%.
And I'm really sad that I was not given the opportunity.
You could be a multimillionaire right now. 100%.
The first call I would make would be Ryan Clark and say, bro, I need some help here.
First Canadian NFL head coach, you would be made. Like, you'd be a made woman.
I feel like I could have done better. I wouldn't have I definitely wouldn't have kicked my kicker.
Right.
I wouldn't have been caught at the local saloon dancing with another lady.
Local saloon with your name on it. And your pictures everywhere. I feel
like I would have done better.
Good. You also you would have been smart enough to delegate and let professionals be professionals, because
thank you. Also true.
Out of 53 players on the roster and Urban Meyer, guess which one of those people actually knows what it's like to be in the NFL? It's the players, it's not the coach. And so, like, there's a temptation to see this as sort of a referendum on successful college coaches and why they don't succeed in the NFL, but that's not really true. What it is a referendum on is college coaches whose egos don't let them make the adjustment to the NFL. Like, I mentioned this, I reference this every now and then. Like, I'm a former Division I college football, Big Ten college football bench warmer. And, but like the guys you knew, they would go to the NFL and they would come back to campus. Now, when Chris Martin or Darnell Autry came back to campus, we would ask them what it's like in the NFL, right? And they would say, well, it's football. Football is football, but it's a lot faster and you have to pay a lot more attention to detail, but at a much higher speed because everybody is so good. But what we didn't do was tell the NFL guys how they should play because we're in college, which is essentially what Urban Meyer thought he was going to do when he went from Ohio State to the broadcast booth to Jacksonville. Is the very thing that coaches at every level warn the new guys about as they come up. This level is not what you're used to. You have to be better. You have to be smarter. You have to be faster. You have to do all these things. But what Urban Meyer said is, it's not that I'm wrong. It's that the entire NFL is wrong. And the way you guys have been doing things forever is wrong. And that I will show you, I will make this team into a college team and I will win. And he didn't win. And that starts with the hiring of the strength coach, who, as we discussed back when it happened, the culture of an NFL team is not the same as the culture of a college team. And you cannot hire some domineering strength coach and think that grown men who all have their own strength coaches are going to listen to this guy, especially if he's going to pepper them with racial slurs. It's not going to work. And that was the first grand opening and grand closing. And that's the clue we all should have taken. Go ahead, Dave.
Or Tim Tebow at tight end, which a lot of people saw as a little bit of a sideshow. But for the player, it matters more than that. Players, much more than we know, pay attention to who has roster spots, who gets into camp, who gets an opportunity. And when your message to the team is, hey, Tim Tebow deserves a roster spot at a position he's never played before, it's a signal of unseriousness in the first degree. And also, one last thing. I know we've gone on about this for a minute, but to me, Urban Meyer, it's similar to the Steve Spurrier era in Washington. Mm-hmm. It's similar to all these rules, all these situations. And the reason why people blame college coaches as a whole is because you have these high profile examples of people who really do think that they're General Patton. They're coming from a school where they are the highest paid, most powerful person on campus. I'll never forget the joke when the president of Ohio State was asked why he didn't fire Jim Tressel. And he said, I only hope Tressel doesn't fire me.
I remember
that mentality does not exist at the NFL level. Not even for Bill Belichick, I would argue. It's like you don't have that level of utter and absolute power. And Bill Belichick has actually rescinded some of his power from the draft perspective this past year, which is why they've had better drafts in New England. But it's just to say this idea where you are this all-powerful, for lack of a better term, and I use this term very, very directly, overseer, is very different. Like instead of overseeing 18, 19, 20-year-olds who you get to bully, you're now in a room full of grown adults who are not going to take you kicking them as a form of motivation.
Meghan McPeak, what do you think is next for Urban Meyer?
College football.
Yeah.
But like I said, where?
Dave, what do you think is next?
College football. And it will be a landing so cushy, you'll think he was falling from a trapeze at the Big Apple Circus.
Yeah, and now, like I said at the top of the program, I think he'll get another college job. And if he doesn't do that, I could also see him reinventing himself, either as a studio analyst, which is what he was doing before, or even as like an all-purpose talking head on Fox News or Newsmax or One American News Network.